Hey everyone, what's up? And welcome back to season 4 of the Choose UCalgary podcast, or welcome if you are new. My name is Aidyn, and I am the season 4 host. I'm a third-year student here at the University of Calgary, currently completing a co-op work term as a digital student recruitment ambassador. So on today's episode, I'm super excited to be joined here with Brendan, a UCalgary student who is on the Dinos men's hockey team. And Brendan is number 20 on the team and plays defense, but he is also a full-time undergraduate student. So he's going to be telling us about how it's been to balance sports with academics, as well as just his whole journey as a Dino and his experience so far. So welcome, Brendan, and thank you so much for being a guest on the Choose UCalgary podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So would you be able to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, obviously I'm Brendan De Jong. I play on the men's ice hockey team from Victoria, BC. Decided to come to Calgary for school. Interesting play. I'm in sociology right now. I'm finishing up my second year, hopefully a minor in psych, kind of figuring that out, trying to transition into psych, but we'll see how that all works out. But that's where I'm at.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. So obviously, like you said, you do play on the Dinos men's hockey team. So would you be able to kind of maybe walk us through your journey of getting to where you are today and, just like with playing hockey throughout the years, and how did you end up playing for the University of Calgary?
Yeah, so my whole life has been fairly hockey focused. It began in Victoria. I played hockey in Victoria until I was 15. And then when I was 16, I transitioned, moved to Portland, Oregon, played for the Portland Winterhawks for 5 years in the Western Hockey League. Following that, I went to Bakersfield in the American Hockey League and then Wichita in the ECHL for half a year until Christmas, and then kind of made the decision to cut off pro and go to school and get my academics going. And that's when obviously the recruitment process began, and schools knew I'd be kind of making a decision to leave pro and come to school. And that's when Mark Howell, our coach, reached out to me and gave me a really convincing story to come to Calgary. So that's when I made my decision to come here.
Can I ask what made you convinced to come here?
I think the biggest thing for me was the balance between like the strong hockey program, but also like the solid academics. Honestly, it was kind of between UBC and here, and I know the history that this hockey program has in producing professional hockey players, which is what I want to do. I'd like to pursue hockey after school, and I knew that Mark and the rest of the University of Calgary ice hockey staff kind of had the ability to do that. So that was the big difference maker.
That's cool. It kind of sounds like you've been all over the place beforehand, though. So I'm sure Calgary, it's kind of been a change coming from the States, and then Victoria, definitely a different experience, but that's awesome. So what was your recruitment experience like overall? And when you got to the University of Calgary, what was like your first impression of it?
Yeah, so I'd spoken with Mark a couple times before I even went to Wichita for a few months. And at that point, I was fairly committed to the professional process. And so I kind of put it on the back burner, but Mark was continuous and staying on me and showing me the options that there were out there. So and I think just kind of the persistence and him showing me what University of Calgary could do for my academics and my hockey career was a big part of that recruitment process.
Now that you've kind of been a Dino for a little bit, what would you say has been your most memorable experience or moment so far, whether it was on or off the ice?
Unfortunately, I came in an awkward time and I got injured. So my greatest experiences haven't been too much hockey focused. I think at any point, like during my athletics and kind of my life, my biggest takeaway from that has always been the relationships I've built. And I think no matter kind of what we do on the ice, the relationships and connections and people you meet, that's the kind of thing that lives on. So I think the relationships are the biggest part and probably the best thing I'll experience throughout.
Yeah. Are you guys all super, super close, I'm assuming?
Yeah. And again, like I came in kind of an awkward time, but even then, like I was integrated the team well and everyone was very welcoming. And that's usually how it is with, I know hockey for sure, but I'm sure most athletics.
Are you guys also close with the other teams too, or is it more so like kind of you stick with your own team? Or
The hockey team has had a pretty solid history of supporting other programs, whether that's attending basketball games or volleyball games and cheering everyone on. So I think once this COVID stuff ends and we can get people back in the stands, I think we'll definitely continue doing that.
is it kind of cool when you are playing, or when you were playing, I guess, and you kind of look up in the stands and there's like all of these fans kind of cheering you on? What does that feel like?
It's definitely a cool experience. I think there's definitely opportunity of students to be attending games and then that kind of thing, which would be really cool. But obviously we do recognize the people that do come out and support, and it is definitely cool to look up and see like obviously certain teams coming and attending and cheering us on. So that is cool to see.
I know a big game is the Crowchild Classic, where we play against our rival school, Mount Royal University. Have you been able to play that yet? And if you have, what was that like?
Unfortunately, no, I haven't. I got injured before that game and I didn't get to play it, but
Oh man.
I mean, the build up to that game and just like the videos and the montages that kind of create the atmosphere about it. It definitely looked incredible, and I watched from home, and it was definitely cool. And I look forward to playing that soon enough.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing that we like to highlight to the first year incoming students. It's a huge event, super fun. Yeah, one of the best events, I would say, that the university puts on, along with kickoff for the football as well.
Yeah.
That's great. So looking back to when you were training often and practicing and playing, what would be like an average week in your life? Like, what would that look for you? I can assume it would be probably really busy, with school and sports. And
Yeah. So, I mean, I've mentioned it too many times now, but I only played 2 games when I came to school, and then I got hurt. And so my student athlete career hasn't been as stereotypical. It's just, I've tried to kind of watch and experience it, seeing from other guys and the way they go through the process. It's definitely a bit of a grind. It's practicing every day, then going to school, working out 3 times a day, or not 3 times a day, 3 times a week, sorry. So it's definitely a demanding schedule, and I honestly look forward to it. Like after so long of COVID and not being involved with the team and not being as physically active as I should have, I look forward to getting in kind of that routine and that solid schedule and back to that lifestyle.
yeah, hopefully soon enough, things can get back to that.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned, having a routine, and I find that that's probably really helpful for a lot of student athletes, is sticking to your routine and staying on top of your stuff. So
Absolutely.
what other advice would you kind of give maybe any future students or student athletes who want to successfully balance like sports with academics and social and everything that they have going on? How do you kind of make sure that you're performing good in all of those aspects?
Yeah, I think like even for me, it was like absolutely an adjustment. Like I had never really had to balance those 2 things in my life. Even though like when I got here, like it was brief. Like I believe kind of once you get into that routine and the discipline just kind of sets in, because there's no other option to then get into that discipline schedule and succeed. You kind of work through that.
I'm sure there's obviously, like you said, challenges and kind of struggle sometimes to balance all of that. So what would be, I guess, the main way that you would overcome that?
I just think it's like most athletes, anyone who's going to school and working, like, yeah, it's like not exclusive to athletes at all. Like I'm sure yourself been through many demands and like for sure the struggles, but I guess you just kind of have to work through it and just realize that the stuff passes if you just kind of stick to your discipline and work through it.
Yeah, just kind of stay motivated. And I'm sure it helps like being on a team too, because everyone's kind of in the same boat, doing it together, and
Yeah,
it
exactly.
helps.
Yeah, that's definitely a motivating factor for sure.
Did you know that the University of Calgary has 14 faculties and over 250 programs? Browse all of our different programs on the Explore Programs tab on the UCalgary undergraduate page, linked in the episode notes. As I mentioned before, like you stay motivated by being with the team when there's other people around you doing the same stuff. So what would be some resources that you guys can all use like together individually that are just for like dinos athletes that can help you guys, whether it's academically or with mental health or any of those kind of pieces? What resources are available, and have you had any experiences with that?
Yeah, I think this is an aspect where athletes definitely benefit, like the resources of tutors, therapists, etc. I know personally when I got hurt, like the resources I had for therapy and getting back to the ice was incredible. Like every day, I had them reaching out to me, seeing how I was doing. Every day, I was in the office with them, like working on myself. So there's definitely, we're blessed with that opportunity to have those kind of resources. And I think like even since COVID started, it's kind of expanded like well beyond athletics even. I know like we get like the faculty of arts, we get emails every day about like wellness checks and that kind of thing. So hopefully that extends past COVID life and they keep kind of pursuing that aspect. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's nice that the University of Calgary is very focused on that, especially during these times. That's a really like reassuring feeling to know that all these resources are available for you if you need them.
Absolutely.
Aside from athletics, I guess, and playing hockey, what's your favorite thing about studying at UCalgary so far? Whether it's like a class or friendships, like you mentioned, or even just the city of Calgary in general?
Well, I think like just because I've been so hockey focused, Calgary's kind of given me the opportunity to expand on myself and kind of search for like different interests in my life. And like through academics, that's been incredible. I've kind of found like what my life after hockey would look like. And I never really dove into that aspect of my life. But yeah, the University of Calgary and obviously like all the resources they've given me have given me the opportunity to look at that aspect of my life.
You mentioned that you obviously formed good friendships on the team and built those relationships. Have you formed friendships outside of the Dinos as well, like in classes or just through other things at UCalgary?
Yeah, like even I was in class for I think 3 months before COVID set in, but even like those relationships and like group projects and that kind of thing, like that was awesome going into class and meeting new people. That was a different something I hadn't really experienced in a long time since high school. So I'd always kind of been limited to my team and that was it. So being able to expand that and develop new different relationships was definitely cool.
For sure. Okay, so to wrap up, we are on our last question now. If you could tell anyone, any prospective dinos who are thinking about joining a team or wanting to attend the University of Calgary, what would you tell them?
Well, I've been talking to a few people because I'm trying to get a few people to come here, and I kind of tell them the same thing, especially for athletics and ice hockey specifically. That balance between hockey and academics is huge. I know, like hockey wise, I look at our program and it's second to none. Like there's not many programs around the country that'll be able to compete with like the development and then also just the winning aspect as well. So I'm looking forward to getting back and actually playing and being able to compete and hopefully win nationals and do that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm excited. And yeah, those are kind of the biggest reasons I chose to come here and why I think anybody should come here.
Thank you. Yeah, that is really exciting and good luck. Hopefully the season can pick up again soon and you can get back out there. And I wish you the best of luck with playing. And thank you so much for sharing all of your advice and your experiences. I really enjoyed having you on today. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brendan, for being such a great guest on the podcast today. And a special thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in to learn more about the Dinos hockey and athletics from a current student's perspective here at the University of Calgary. So to find out more information about the Dinos teams, or if you're interested in some of the support services that we talked about, please head over to the episode notes as I will leave everything linked there as always. And finally, if you ever have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram, which is choose.ucalgary, and you can message me on the UCalgary Future Students Facebook page, and I'm always happy to be answering any questions on there. So once again, thank you everyone for listening, and that is all for today's episode, so we will see you soon in our next episode.